And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Late Night Podcast. We are here recapping the fifth Lakers preseason game. They fall tonight to the Sacramento Kings by a final score of, what do we got here, 107-100. It wasn't really that close, though, throughout the game. I thought this was one of the more ugly games. But before we even talk about basketball, life comes first in these kinds of situations. And a very dear former Laker, he'll always be a Laker. He'll go down as probably one of my favorite Lakers of all time. Just not even from a standpoint of how he played the game, but who he was as a person, or who he is as a person. I don't want to eulogize a guy before he actually does pass, though the reports don't sound very good. Yeah, Lamar, just get better, please. Just get better. Harrison, before I go to you, when I was at Fansided, I wrote something about Lamar when one of his close friends had passed. I'll pick up from here. I'll say
earlier this summer.
Yeah, this was I wrote, I've never had the pleasure of meeting Lamar, though everyone who has leaves the interaction with nothing but kind words. Like I said earlier, he's honest, one of the good ones. And that's even despite the turns his life is taking him through. Think of the losses he's had to endure. And this is a partial list. That's the crazy part. This is a partial list. Think of your mom. How would your life have gone without her? Mom, I love you with all my heart. If you lost her and her replacement, your grandmother, for example, also passed, leaving you with that strong female without that strong female voice in your life, how would that go? And I feel the same way about my grandma. I pray to her every night. You can go down the line. She's, I don't have children, but if I did and one passed in the crib, I'm sorry. I just don't know how I would react to that kind of thing. And then he's lost close friends. He's went through an ugly public divorce. Right now he's being known or listed as former Kardashian Lamar Odom. And again, the most important thing here is just get better. Just get better. Find whatever kind of strength you possibly can, and just get better. How do you think of Lamar Odom, Harrison? And oh, by the way, this is Harrison Fagan. Sorry about that, guys. This is Harrison Fagan.
Yeah, I mean, I just really everything that you said, I think that you put like a really good voice to it. I've been trying to not tweet about this at all because, like you, he was one of my favorite Lakers ever. I've always had an affinity for big guys who can dribble. So just aesthetically, like there was that, and then. With him, it's like you said, he just seemed like such a good person that had to endure like such heartache, like just an unfair amount during his lifetime. And like, honestly, I had to block, like, I think it was like 3 people on Twitter tonight who were in my mentions, like making jokes about it. And it's just like, honestly, if you're like out here tonight, like making jokes about this, you're human garbage. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it is. Like, I don't normally like to, do ad hominem attacks or come at people on a personal level. But if like you're like joking about a guy who's in critical condition in the hospital, you're making Kardashian jokes, you're saying that he deserved it because of like drug use, you're human trash. Like, and you need to figure out like what's wrong with your life that's making you feel like you need to say those things about someone who you've probably never met. And unfortunately, it's from the sound of the reports, may never get the pleasure of meeting.
Right, and I think that the most frustrating thing that I saw on Twitter tonight, beyond the obvious, just jackasses being
idiots,
idiots. When I see people say that drug abuse is a personal choice, and that at some point you need to stand up and be culpable for your decisions. I agree with that. I would never say that, his personal choices, he was never forced to do the things he actually did. But that doesn't mean that you can't therefore relate to the issues that he's been through. You know, those two
Yeah.
things aren't mutually exclusive. If somebody goes through a bunch of stuff and already has a proclivity towards drug abuse already inherently within them, as many people tend to that tends to be the case with. There are studies that show that to a certain extent, to a large extent, drug abuse is a disease. It's not something that you just choose. Yeah, I'd love to just be addicted to cocaine. That's not how this works. And if he has that already inherently within him and then goes through the stuff that he goes through, I'm sorry, you should, regardless of, people say that, I've not me, but I've been through all kinds of stuff and I never leaned on drugs, and I continue to be an upstanding citizen. Way to go, buddy. Congratulations. Well done. But at the end of the day, you should still.
Honestly, what do you expect to get in response for? Like,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah. Here's a freaking high five, man. Just relate to somebody who's going through legitimate issues. He could lose his life, within the next few hours. And way to go when being the first person to say that, well, I'm just a better person. Hell out of here, man. Just hell out of here. You don't need to say that. So at the end of the day, and I apologize if I get emotional about this kind of thing, but there's a human being out there who might not make it through the night, and there are way too many people out there who are completely lacking in empathy. You need to do better, period. So just my thoughts and prayers go out to Lamar, his family, his friends. Just get better, Lamar. And hopefully, you hit rock bottom and you get better, and the people around you can continue to support you in these times of need. And to those people, I hope you guys get help. To those who are saying the kinds of things that I saw on Twitter, I hope you guys get help because you need it, just flat out. Again, I'm sorry. I get a little emotional over these things, but there was a basketball game played tonight. I'm going to segue awkwardly back into basketball. The Lakers played the Kings tonight. DeMarcus Cousins did not play. Marcelo Huertas did not play. He was not active for the Lakers once again tonight. Harrison, what were your thoughts on the game?
Well, my first thought is that's a hell of a sieg to go from DeMarcus Cousins is missing to Marcelo Huertas is missing. Like, those are like equitable things. But getting back to, trying to talk about basketball right now. I mean, there is one thing that we did learn tonight, which is Maccabi Haifa, or the Sacramento Kings, are better than Maccabi Haifa.
I think that's a safe limb to crawl out onto.
Even without Cousins, there's always those could Kentucky beat X NBA team? Like, I'm fairly confident that Sacramento without DeMarcus could still beat Maccabi Haifa, but so there's still a long. Obviously, I say that to point out that yes, that win the other night, it was awesome to watch, and that was the Lakers at their full potential, hitting on every gear. There's still a long way to go for all these guys, so I think that's really the biggest takeaway that you have from tonight is the Kings were missing their best player. This is a team that most likely will not make the playoffs even if DeMarcus is healthy the entire season. And they just kind of crushed the Lakers tonight for most of the game.
Yeah,
so
it felt to me, I'm wearing a Dodger shirt right now. The Dodgers pulled through in their potential season-ending game tonight. It felt a lot like to me with a batter who had just faced a knuckleballer or a spitball or some kind of junk ball pitcher who now faces, a flamethrower the very next game. And you're getting used to the speed all of a sudden, once again, of facing NBA quality guards. I think statistically, I don't think you'll find a more telling stat than Darren Collison. By no way, shape, or form an all-star caliber point guard. He got to the free throw line 10 times tonight, made all 10 free throws. And, that tells me that the guards who were going up against him tonight, were just a step slow and were not capable of playing decent defense without fouling. What did you see? I mean, we could go straight into the Russell conversation, but what did you see just more generally before we get into specifics beyond, the Kings are an actual NBA team?
Well, beyond, we're going deeper than that.
We might.
Yeah, no, going back to what you said about Collison and about the Lakers, also like the Lakers getting used to going against actual NBA caliber guards again. The guy who figured that out the most tonight was Ryan Kelly, who actually looked pretty good against Maccabi Haifa. But tonight, Collison just roasted him on switch. Like the Kings were going for that switch every single time, and the Lakers just kept switching. And Ryan, bless his heart, he tried, but to stay in front of Collison, but that just wasn't going to happen.
Stick to hacky sack, Ryan. Sticks.
That hair.
That hair. It's still a thing. It's made it through here. It could just be. He
was saying in the locker room the other night, it's just the headband thing is just because it grew out over the summer. It's not like a style choice or anything. I guess he must like having his hair long, and he needs to keep it out of his face, he said. So.
Yeah, I kind of thought the waves were symbolic for potentially getting waved here in the next couple days, but that's just me.
Oh.
All right, but I do. All right, I think there are two huge stories from this actual game tonight. One being D'Angelo Russell again coming off of the bench, and then the other being Kobe leaving early with an injury here. Which would you like to start with?
Let's go ahead and get into Russell.
All right. My take, I worry a little bit with Byron that D'Angelo Russell will not have a long enough leash to fail. There is something to be said about, NBA players or point guards especially being able to feel comfortable enough to go out there and fail without worrying about being benched. Is that how you're reading this situation, or is it just we just need another ball handler in the second unit?
I think, yes, we need another ball handler in the second unit. No, I don't think that means that D'Angelo needs to come off the bench. But also, I don't want to overreact and say that Byron's not giving him a long leash. I think the minutes got a little messed up tonight. I think that they might have gotten a little overconfident that was the best way to go after just dominating Maccabi the other night. With that, it was like a little bit where the results influenced the process, where the process was not necessarily what led to those results.
Mm-hmm. I'm just pardon me. I was just laughing at the fact that the possibility that the Lakers were like, yeah, everybody's gonna be like Maccabi Haifa. Why wouldn't we just have that same success against everybody? It's crazy to me.
I mean, we beat them by 60, so we'll just beat NBA teams by 20.
Exactly.
Or they beat them by I think 43, but it was a lot.
Hashtag math is fun.
Yeah. So I think, I don't want to jump on Byron just yet. I think that, he did start Russell with Clarkson and Kobe, that lineup that we all wanted right out of the gate. So I think that maybe they will go back to that now. I'm hoping that Huertas is healthy enough to play, and that'll just kind of force the issue a little bit. And just to be able to really get a look and evaluate him against NBA players, they'll have to put Russell back in the starting lineup just so there's enough minutes to go around, and it's easier to manage those rotations. Because I think that there should be some time where he's out there as the primary ball handler, Huertas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's what you brought him over for.
Yeah, exactly. That's his strength. That's what it is. If you're just gonna have him off ball, why did you bring him over?
Steve Nash, defensive specialist. It's
Oh man, he makes Steve Nash actually look like solid defensively. I don't know if you watch that. You watch those Lakers scrimmage videos from Hawaii. That's my main experience with Huertas' defense. And the thing that stuck out to me was every guard highlight coming out of those was Huertas was guarding Clarkson or Lou Williams or D'Angelo Russell. And you could see what those scouting reports meant when they say that he tries hard, but he's just not good. And he's out there, he's doing everything but whacking the floor with his hands. But he's clearly engaged. He's just not good.
future Maccabi Haifa starting point guard, or no, probably not.
Yeah.
No, that's probably been the most unfortunate aspect of the way this offseason has gone. And if I were the front office, I'd be a little frustrated with how Byron has split up the rotation here. These games is where you get a legitimate look at whether or not some of these guys could replace people that have been on your roster for the last couple seasons. And with Byron's unwillingness to go with, guys at the end of the bench, I don't know if you can make a cut, cuts from the roster comfortably without thinking, we never really got a full look at these guys. And with Huertas, what I'm worried about is this. Byron had nothing to do with this rotations wise, but we have no idea what this guy offers. And if he is the potential second string point guard, that's a pretty big role considering the impact that second unit has without a primary ball handler. Man, I'd be a little nervous, keeping him on the roster.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to move on. I was going to move on, but unless you had something.
Yeah, we're going to get into that later. I was about to make a point about cuts, but we're gonna save that for last. Go ahead.
Yeah. Last tidbit here from Kobe or from the game is Kobe's going down with what the Lakers are calling a lower leg contusion. I believe it was J.A. Donde who tweeted out that was the initial report with Steve Nash's injury out there in Portland. The difference here was that with Steve Nash, you could plainly see where that contact took place. I watched the clip a few times, and you can kind of see a minor bump, but I never really saw, legitimate contact made. I mean, did I miss it completely, or what did you see on that play? And should we just sit here with our fingers crossed for the rest of the show?
You weren't already?
Oh no.
No, it did. I'm with you. It didn't look like there was any significant contact. But the thing with these things, you always had. They did say they said that he took a knee to the what was it? Quad calf.
Calf.
Leg. Yeah. So but you don't know what play that happened on. It could have happened on a previous play, and it just caused him to lose the ball or stumble there, like the pain from it. People are always looking for the injury on the last play before the guy goes out, and that's not always how it works. Sometimes I guess you don't notice that you're injured or your body doesn't feel it until you try to actually do something. And so, or you thought it was a minor bump, and it turns out it was something that hurt a little bit more. But at least reason prevailed. Like if it is just a calf bruise or bruise of some kind on his leg, at least they didn't put him back into the game.
Right.
So I think that we can all be happy about that.
The one difference, though, I would say between this and, D'Angelo Russell's situation when he sustained a contusion to the lower half of his body was how there was a question.
Bruised on the ass, dude.
Well, I'm just saying I was trying to make the two injuries seem comparable. But with Russell, there was a report, he could come in. They're thinking about bringing him in, and everybody freaked out. It's like, why would you even consider it? But the fact that was even a possibility spoke to it was, in my opinion, back at the time, I said it was a win-win because, he could have come in. It didn't seem that serious. Whereas with Kobe, it was immediate. This doesn't look good. I'm going back to the locker room. I'm at this point, because of the season injuries that Kobe's gone through the last few seasons, I'm probably overreacting, but I just can't help it. I honestly cannot. So again, let's just wish for the best with Kobe. I don't know how much more we'll see of him in the preseason if he's, nursing a bruise. I just don't see any point, really. I thought we've seen both kinds of Kobe's, where tonight he was more trying to force stuff off of the dribble, and against Maccabi Haifa, he was more of a spot-up shooter. I think we now see which Kobe is going to be more effective at this point. Yeah. So, given the sample size, or not sample size, but given what we've seen all right, let's just sit him down for the rest of the preseason and get him back, ramp him back up for the start of the regular season. Anything else to add on Kobe?
No, I think we hit it.
Good stuff. I did want to, talk a little bit about, just really, really briefly go through some of what we saw statistically from the Lakers. I thought Randall played well again tonight, 5 of 9 from the field, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. That's, stuffing the stat sheet. He had a steal, so that was fun to see. You had Jordan Clarkson played another, strong game, 7 of 16 from the field for 17 points. Isn't as efficient as you'd like. I'd like to see him get to the free throw line just a little bit more. And then, Roy Hibbert continuing to rebound the ball well, and he got another block shot. He had a really nice play, I thought, right, you know which one I'm talking about, where I think Clarkson got trapped in the corner, released the ball out to Hibbert. Hibbert had to make a dribble and made a weak side cross-court pass to Anthony Brown for a corner 3. That's really good instincts for a center. That was fun to see.
He's a very good passer for a center. He can direct traffic from that high post a little bit, like we used to watch Pau Gasol do sometimes. I don't know if I would say he's not as good of a passer as Pau, but most bigs aren't.
No.
And him and Randall, I was mentioning during one of my little short form posts during the game, those two are both really good passers, and that could be a fun high-low passing combination to watch for this year. They both had a couple nice looks to each other.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
Go ahead.
I think we talked about this the other night possibly, but I know I talked about it with somebody at some point. But with the way that the Princeton during summer league, it was getting the ball was getting stuck at the top of the key in Tarek Black or Robert Upshaw or whatever center's hands, and they didn't really know what to do with it. Roy knows what to do with it, and so does Randall. So that's why I think that we've seen the offense working a bit better. Is it's going to those same spots, but those guys are just better passers and they see the floor better.
Right. Yeah. I shameless plug here, but at least it's for our website. I wrote an article today about Roy Hibbert and how the impact he's made so far to the Lakers extends beyond what you would think. Right. We already knew he boxes out well and is going to help with the team rebounding. He's actually rebounded individually a little bit better than I would have anticipated. And then we also knew that the defensive stuff was going to happen. I can't count on more than a single hand instances where he was completely out of place on defense, but it's the leadership. It's getting in people's face when they mess up, on a defensive rotation. It's those passes that you just talked about that I didn't anticipate from Hibbert. I've been extremely impressed with Hibbert thus far.
Yeah, and I think he seems to be really relishing the chance to get to be the veteran leader in the locker room. Obviously that's Kobe, that's Ron too. But as far as the defensive side of the ball, and in Indiana, it was David West was that guy, and there were other guys that were louder voices in the locker room than him, I'm sure, because he was still just coming up. Now with the Lakers, he's the seasoned veteran among this kind of litter of guys 23 or under. And they're all looking to him, and so he seems to really be relishing that instead of shying away from it.
Yeah,
which has been nice to see.
That's great. I mean, it's huge. That's huge if he offers that.
Yeah.
One last note here on again. I mean, I don't want to harp too much on Byron's rotations because it's a complete jumble. I mean, he's dealing with almost complete overhaul throughout his roster, but I don't like seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 DNP coach decisions tonight. No, 6. Huertas doesn't count. 6 DNP coach decisions. You can't see that when you're trying to figure out what your roster might look like going into this season. This is when you're supposed to be trying out not just the individual player, but players, how they look with each other in certain combinations. We've seen way too much of Lou Williams and Nick Young on the court at the same time. We know that's probably not going to go over very well. Let's go ahead and try something different here, and
also we know what those guys bring to the table. So let's see what the more unknown guys do before you have to decide if you're going to cut them or not.
Right. I mean, we saw Upshaw play, extended minutes one game, and then again another DNP CD here, and it's just All right, I'm not. I promised that Uber driver, or because I got out of that Uber car, I wouldn't give Byron too hard a time. But that's not good, and that's something that the front office probably is going to talk to him a little bit about as this preseason continues. All right. So speaking of the front office and the roster and how that might break down, you put together a nice little chart of how of the actual roster, what we're looking at, who you think might make it, who you'd like to see on it, whether those two differ. Go ahead. I'm just gonna toss it over to you. And what do you got, Harrison?
So among the guys that I think are pretty much locks, and you can let me know if you agree with me, but I got 10 guys as a lock to make it. Like absolute, like I would be like jaw dropped, like floored if they were not on the opening roster. And that's Kobe Bryant. He's not going to get amnestied. Sorry, Mark Cuban. Roy Hibbert, Lou Williams, Nick Young, D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, Brandon Bass, Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, and Anthony Brown. Any disagreements there?
That sounds about right. I don't. Yeah, it sounds about right. Just because of you know the what all those guys offer at their respective positions. Brown might not in normal years, you know, being a second round draft pick, but because of how thin the Lakers are at small forward, you kind of have to keep him around. That's the only
and I mean he's shown some stuff. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's a guy that's worth a look, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And they just used a second-round pick on him. Like, I can see, like, if he's still a relative unknown, so heading into his second year, but they just used the draft pick. If you can cut him now, it's like you just completely wasted it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he had been completely awful, then, like, you know, sure, you think about it. But, yeah, for all the reasons that you cited and the fact that they just selected him, I think he's a lock.
Did you have Nance in that list?
Yes, I did.
And I would agree because of the first round selection that they used on him, but a really deep, dark side of me that I don't really want to acknowledge as much as I am right now, I'd like to have seen a lot more of him this preseason. He didn't play again tonight. But again, he's a first round pick.
Yeah, I don't.
For the same reasons as Anthony Brown. You can't use a first rounder on somebody and then just say, oh, well, bummer.
Yeah. Especially a first rounder. Then I mean, that's just like a pride thing for the front office. Like, they're not gonna cut a guy that they just used the first round. Like, if they cut him, we had to deal with Jeremy Lin stands last year for the entire season for a guy that for one night of Larry chants in Vegas. I gotta believe, okay.
Man, for dealing with Larry or Jeremy Lin stands, Larry Nance needs to be like a 5-time All-Star.
Like, he needs to live up to those Draymond Green comparisons those scouts were making to Zach Lowe.
Yeah. So who are the other people that you listed though that you weren't as sure? Either, you know, holdovers from last year or people who are still trying to make it on as new additions this year.
Yeah, so then we got 9 guys there. We got 5 spots left, debatably 4 if they want to keep it at 14 to be able to take on a lopsided trade. But I think that they're going to keep 15. That's kind of my gut feeling with just the amount of kind of talent that they have in camp right now. So we got 9 guys for 5 spots. So that's Ryan Kelly and Robert Sacre, who have guaranteed deals, which Mitch Kupchak did say earlier this summer that he would not be or that he would be willing to cut guys with a guaranteed deal if it was the best basketball decision. Mm-hmm. So we got Kelly and Sacre under the guaranteed deals. We got Meta World Peace, Jabari Brown, Tarek Black, Robert Upshaw, Marcelo Huertas, Jonathan Holmes, mm-hmm. And Michael Frazier.
Okay. And again,
so out of those.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the frustrating thing here is that I don't know hardly anything about what Frazier offers and what Holmes offers, and even Upshaw to a certain extent. He's just upside at this point. he had he
looked pretty good in that game against the Raptors. I thought. I mean, he was raw, but he looked pretty good.
Early he did, but I thought he really tailed off at the end. You know, being a conditioning.
I think that still speaks to the conditioning thing, and probably the Raptors started to figure out he was going to jump at everything. So that's something that he'll have to learn not to do. But after he swatted a couple shots back to Toronto, like they were like, all right, pump fake guys, like he's gonna fly past you. And then there's the conditioning thing too. But so out of those 9 guys, we'll see if we agree on this or not. But I thought it would be a good thing to talk about, to go over which ones that we think are going to make the final roster. And so out of those 9, I would say Huertas is basically a lock. I almost put him under the locks. He would be a lock, I think, if he had played this preseason at all. Just because he left guaranteed money over there in Argentina, I believe, where overseas.
Spain.
Spain, yeah. Okay, yeah, my bad. He left guaranteed money over in Spain, and so you would think that the Lakers basically promised him that he's going to be on the roster for him to do that. And so I would have put him in the guaranteed to make it guys, but I think because he hasn't played this preseason, if he's already having nagging hamstring issues, you have to at least think about whether or not you want to keep him around if he's just going to be in the training room the entire season. So then after that, I have Tariq Black, Meta World Tariq Black, because he's relatively young. He showed some upside last year. He could be a decent rotation big, I think, in the future. And he kind of fits with the Lakers' core age-wise. So I think that that's a guy that's worth keeping around. And then you got Meta World Peace, who, while basically is going to be a glorified assistant coach this season, has put in work with Randall the whole summer. I think that that's someone that they would potentially even, you don't want to say alienate Randall by cutting, because he's still so far away from meaningful free agency or anything like that. But you would just think with the relationship that those two guys have developed and the effect that Meta's had on Randall, that he'd stay around. And then also that he's good friends with Kobe. And
just goes to show how important networking is.
Yeah. And then Robert Upshaw, for all the reasons that we mentioned before, it just upside. He's looked pretty decent. And I went with Michael Frazier for the last spot. But I'm not sold that that's actually going to be the guy. I picked him because he was a really good three-point shooter in college. I think that he's looked bad because he's been asked to run point this entire preseason. But has he shown enough that they're going to cut both Kelly and Sacre? I'm not 100% sure about that. I think that Kelly, I felt a little more optimistic about his chances after Eric Pincus was kind of predicting that he'd still be around today. And, after his game against Maccabi Haifa, I felt a little bit better about him than I did tonight, when we just got to watch him get roasted by Darren Collison all night. And it's just he is what he is at this point. And it's also, he's going to be a victim of kind of the front court log jam. If they're going to give minutes to a power forward this season, it's going to be Randall or Bass, and then you would think they would want to find those spot minutes for Nance. Kelly hasn't shown enough that you would say definitively he's worth keeping around as that other guy. And Sacre, I think that, as awesome as he is, just of a guy, he's kind of topped out at this point. And Tariq Black is a better version of the player that he is. So, we know what Sacre is. There's no upside left to mine there.
Right. I would agree. So here's the thing.
I went really long there. I apologize.
No problem. I was just. So here's where I'm thinking about Huertas. And if I'm Kupchak and we talk about how, we aren't making any promises based on contractual obligation to people, I don't know if I would therefore extend any kind of promise to Huertas, right? Where if he isn't able to go at all this preseason because of this nagging hamstring, though I think Medina tweeted out today that he's getting closer. If he can't go, and you can find a backup point guard, that's pretty easy to make happen. So I'd say I'd lump Upshaw and MWP with being the most lockiest of I'm an English major, I can make up words, the the best bets to make the roster with because of everything you said about both guys. I'm just not as high on Tarek Black as everybody else. I was really turned off by what I saw, not even just basketball wise, but the way he held himself on the court out there in Vegas over Summer League. But that's a really hot take. That's Rant Sports.
Yeah, I'm
right
pretty
there,
sure
right
he's
there.
safe. I would be pretty surprised if he didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. So I would actually disagree with you in saying that, you think that they'd keep a 15th player on the roster. I think one of the tendencies they've really shown themselves to really like is the flexibility that comes with having an empty roster spot there. And I don't see anybody, between Ryan Kelly, Frazier, or Huertas that absolutely need to be on the roster there. I would, if there was a gun in my head, I'd probably say Huertas, Black, MWP, and Upshaw, but nobody else at that 15th spot. I feel bad. I think Kelly will, latch on to somewhere in the NBA and, develop some kind of useful role as a stretch four off the bench. He's skilled enough on offense that you can make that work. I could very easily see him going and being useful out there in San Antonio, just because everybody's useful in San Antonio. But out here, I think I'd just like to see that flexibility at the end of the roster. But the overarching theme here is how frustrating it has to be for the front office to say we haven't seen hardly anybody consistently enough to make any of these decisions comfortably. Right? That's what I would read from the situation. All right, so that does it for everything that I wanted to cover. I wanted to really hammer home the top story by a long shot in this. And I've been off Twitter while we've been recording here. So I know Al Harrington tweeted out, "Rest in peace, LO." I'm not sure if he has bad information or if he's just better than TMZ than what they do. But just thoughts and prayers go out to Lamar, his family, his friends, and everybody. Just get better and get the help that you need and get the kind of culture around you to avoid this kind of thing moving forward. Go ahead.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. I think that's the number one thing from tonight. In the end, like the rest of the show we spent, it's just basketball we were talking about. This is a guy's life in the balance right now. So obviously, just praying he comes through.
Yeah, and I apologize to everybody. It was kind of a somber mood for the show. I usually like to end on some kind of game to get things or finish things on a lighter note. I honestly just can't tonight. It's this is an actual human being, and I don't want to make light of that situation in any way, shape, or form. He's just he's way too good of a guy, and even if he wasn't that great of a guy, human life is really important, and let's just hope he can pull through this. So, from everybody, I would imagine throughout Lakerland, Lamar, get better. To everybody tuning in right now, I really, really appreciate it. I've been blown away by the the response to these shows, not just number-wise, but people reaching out saying that you guys have really enjoyed this. So thank you for that. Thank you, Harrison, for joining us today. Make sure when you're done here, read the two pieces that Harrison put together from his time at the preseason game he went to. My piece was kind of a fluff piece for Hibbert. I was really impressed with him, but what Harrison did was actual reporting, and I'm really proud to say or to see how far you've come while I've been paying attention to your career. Good stuff, Harrison.
All right, thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that.
Anytime. All right, guys. I will see you guys, I believe on Thursday is the next game, and we will have a Lakers Lounge coming to you later this week. I believe we will be reporting that Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday early evening. So keep an eye out for both. And again, thoughts and prayers out to Lamar Odom.